Come on, hide them. She'll be here any minute.
What's the point? She'll just kill us all and find them anyway.
I know. Oh my dog, what are we gonna do? Hide them. We've got to hide them. Hide the cogs, hide the parts, hide everything.
Oh, all right, if it means that much to you. I don't see why we're bothering, though. If it was up to me, we'd just shoot ourselves now and get it over with.
I thought it was established that the rats were Juju Man's, and in that fight with Juju Man, he said that he killed all of his henchmen, so why are there still rats around? Anyway, it's pipe and drums again, but this time only half of it, because the other half is blocked by gloop. There are 10 golden cogs this time, but they're in a relatively small area, and they're all easy to find. If the level were its original size, they might actually be a little bit difficult to find and they would be more spaced out, but as it is, it's not all that bad. You could consider this a blessing depending on how you looked at the previous level design, but either way it's not as overwhelming. So it's pretty clear to me also that that fight with Juju Man definitely was not the intended character there. It was obviously a separate character, but something happened during production and they changed it to Juju Man. And then they went out of their way to draw attention to the fact that he looked nothing like Juju Man. But honestly, I think the hilarity that comes with knowing that that was a separate character at one point just makes the scene better. Hey look, it's an ambush again, only this one isn't garbage. If we didn't have an invincibility spell, maybe it would actually be hard. But hey, they got a little bit better because that ambush resembled an actual ambush. The developers had to know on some level that the enemies weren't a threat because they made a joke about it before we started this level. You know, the rats were talking about how they didn't stand a chance and they might as well just kill themselves because they weren't going to be able to stop or even impede our progress, and they were right. Sometimes their shots hit us directly in the face and they don't even hurt. And that's without the shield magic on. I realize that's a relatively minor glitch that sometimes their bullets don't hurt, but in a game that's already this easy, it stands out even more. You know, I just realized the HUD for the spell selection, the colors for the spells match the Xbox's face buttons. Give me a second, I'm gonna go check if they changed the colors for the PS2 version. Okay, no, they did not. In fact, the colors are exactly the same, and also the PS2 version looks like ass graphically. You know, it seems like a lot of people weren't even aware that Malice was released on the PS2, and the PS2's version's graphics are so much worse, it might as well have been an Xbox exclusive. The weird thing is that the PS2 version was released first. In America, the Xbox and PS2 versions were released at the same time, but in Europe, the PS2 version was definitely released first. And I want to know which one was the primary platform that they used to develop the game with, because the Xbox version is superior not just in graphics, but in a few minor changes to the dialogue and other little polishes here and there. Maybe it was being primarily developed for Xbox and it just took longer to get the Xbox version out, so they had time to make improvements. Maybe it was primarily developed for PS2, but the PS2 version came out wrong, so they used the Xbox version to make improvements to what they didn't like. But then why does the PS2 version have the Xbox's controller colors? Stuff like this really interests me, and I'm never gonna be able to find out exactly what happened. You know, maybe I should try to contact Argonaut Games' former staff about this, but... Okay, thank God it didn't glitch out. But every other time I try to get an interview with the developer of something, it falls through for one reason or another. I think the former CEO of Argonaut Games, Jez San, I think he's somehow connected to Ninja Theory now because he bought Ninja Theory's former studio, Just Add Monsters. But I doubt I could contact him through Ninja Theory. Not that Ninja Theory would have a reason to respond anyway.
the pieces of the rusted mecha armor before I can teleport you to the next area.
So do you remember those really fast enemies that appeared when we got the time spell? Well, they're back now, but we didn't spontaneously lose the time spell, so once again they're no threat. And while we're at it, the time spell also renders the other enemies a non-threat. I don't understand why you even bother with the enemy placement if it's not going to matter. With the lack of difficulty here, this may as well have been a bunch of small crows. The only difference is that this takes longer. Also, this level in particular is labeled rather oddly. It's called the Head Eater, which would lead you to believe that you're going to fight the dog god here for some reason, because he is the Head Eater. But instead, it's a fairly normal level with fairly normal enemies. And I do realize it's such a minor nitpick, but that's what I do, I point these things out. You know, although the levels we're playing in this video are technically part of the penultimate world, or penultimate trip, if you're going by what the game calls it, there's very little cohesion here. We were at Pipe and Drums again, and now we're at some weird military base looking place that you don't see anywhere else in the game. And in a moment we're going to be back at the Fire Fortress. I know that the worlds in Malice aren't worlds in a traditional sense, but they all had a theme up until this point, a graphical theme. And it would be interesting if they followed up more on this aesthetic, this weird military base slash waste disposal aesthetic. Because as I said, it's only used for this one level, seems very underutilized. And this level in particular reminds me more of a messed up children's film than the other levels in the game. I watch a lot of messed up children's films and I enjoy them thoroughly, so I'd like to see more of that. You know, it doesn't even have to be a messed up children's film, it can be a messed up children's show too. I'll take Caillou or Figaro Foe, I'm not that picky. The way this thing turns makes no sense and that really upsets me.
That's the chip over there. And as a bonus, there's absolutely tons of gloop. I know you're a big fan.
I swear I didn't make this Let's Play just to talk about all the surrealistic media I consume. I genuinely enjoyed this game and think it's worth sharing. Maybe the game design isn't the best, but it's certainly worth analyzing and criticizing anyway. I do have to wonder what the reason for all this gloop is, because this either looks like some sort of plant or some sort of manufacturing facility, you know? So they must be doing something with this gloop they're harvesting. Are they making gloop-based weaponry? That would be kinda cool. It's such a shame they never go deeper into the gloop lore, as gloop is clearly the most important facet of the game. They bring it up multiple times.
Careful with that chip. Show too much of it, and we'll be forced to play that infernal jingle.
I would complain that we already cleared out the Fire Fortress, but this is implied to be a part of it that we just haven't seen before, and I am saving here because this is one of the few hazards in the game that can actually kill you reasonably easily. I don't think it kills you in a fair way, but it can. This may not seem so bad, but it's very possible to get stuck inside one of the electrical walls and become stun-locked like that. So yeah, it's not so good. After we make our way through this fire labyrinth, which isn't all that difficult to navigate, we come to a switch, which activates another switch that we need to press before the timer runs out. The timers actually aren't so lenient. If we use our speed up magic, we could get to the switches faster, but at the same time we would risk running into the fire, which is only easy to navigate when we aren't sped up. So this is actually a decent hazard. Good job. And there is something satisfying about moving around the fire in the labyrinth even while you're not sped up, though it's not difficult. We're coming back in here because I forgot a heart pot. It's very easy to miss if you see the switch and just go for it straight away. You know, this section's actually pretty cool. I believe after this hallway I come into a room where I don't turn on my bullet shield and get hit by a projectile crow, just so you can see how little it matters to get hit in this game. Like, even if you don't use the magic, this game is such a cakewalk. I'm not sure why I jumped right there, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, see, look at that. Do you think there's any way that even if I didn't use my magic at all, I would be able to lose? Because I can't see it happening. At this point in the game, we could probably tank absolutely everything except for the boss battles. I was actually about to complain that we have invincibility frames. That's how easy this game is. There are locked doors in this level, and the enemies drop key cards, so that way you actually have to fight them. And that's reasonable, you know, that's actually reasonable design. I always expect there to be something up higher in this room, but there isn't. Seems like a waste. I think this room has the most difficult combat situation in the entire game. I think so. The enemy placement is actually very clever, and if we couldn't make ourselves invincible at the touch of a button, it might be challenging. But I suppose you could say that about every encounter after we gain the invincibility spell. To be fair, they keep the enemies spawning really fast, and if they just came a little bit faster, just a little bit faster, then there might have been some challenge you could scrape from this, even with the magic. There might have been. But as it is, it feels like the world's simplest puzzle. Oh look, enemies with guns, let me activate my bullet shield magic. Oh look, fast enemies, let me activate my time magic. And it's not like you have to do anything special after you activate the magic, it's just a cure to your problems, it just fixes them. Anyway, our keycard is spawned, but that's not all we're doing in this room. There is another heart pot on these ventilation shafts, which is a good place for it. I approve of that hiding spot. And the mana crystals they give you aren't actually too excessive for once. I don't mean to sound too harsh, you know, I know they tried. It's very obvious these enemy formations are creative, and in a game with better balancing, they would actually matter. They just goofed up, and that's alright, everybody goofs up. I can't change how that affects the product, though. Regardless of how hard you tried, the end result is the end result. After we get rid of this last big crow, we'll take the key card, but we're not done in this room yet. We still have another heart pot to collect, and we need to take the elevator to it. I wouldn't call this one hidden necessarily, since you take the elevator directly to it. Maybe they just ran out of places to put them, but that's alright because I do believe these will be the last 2 heart pots we collect in the game. So the idea behind this mini-boss is that these cylinders will summon robots, and we need to destroy the cylinders to stop the robots from spawning. We can just turn on our speed magic and attack the cylinders really rapidly, and this will stop the robots from even hurting us. Really bad boss design. This final room has a bunch of crows with guns, but even if we didn't have the bullet shield magic, we could just avoid the gunfire by standing near the cylinder in the center. There's really nothing to it.
Well done, Malice. You have collected the power source. Now go and get the last logic key. I will teleport you to the last chamber.
So, you've beaten up a few crows. Big deal. Time to meet their boss. He's real bad, you've heard his employees. Those medical plans don't come cheap.
You must defeat the Crow Boss with your quantum tuning fork and wits. Beware of his tongues of fire.
I see, so unlike Mutaton, this time I can't just use my weapon, I need to use my weapon and my wits. This is quite a step up. All joking aside, this boss fight is a bit more creative than the others. We can only hurt the Crow Boss when it charges directly at us like that. I would say that it requires timing, unlike the other fights, but as you saw, we can just wave our tuning fork around. The Crow Boss's attack also isn't actually that bad and resembles something you might see in a better platforming game. They really should work on that timing. I say they should work on it, but this game came out in 2004. I think the time to fix it is long gone. You may notice that even though we're using our attack boost magic, we're barely dealing any damage to the Crow. And I do think the boss fight could stand to go faster. I get that it's a late boss fight, so you want it to have more health, but there are other ways to make challenge happen. And this attack is one of them. This is actually a really good attack, and I approve of it. I wish we could see more of that. Eventually, the Crow Boss moves into a second phase where we have to chase him around and cut him off in order to damage him. He does run around in a fairly large area, so it may seem difficult to reach him in time, but that's your brain tricking you. The game gives you more than enough time to get to him. On the other hand, this attack continues to get more difficult and interesting. If we didn't have so much health, I might actually be able to call this a good fight.
Well done, Malice. You defeated the King of the Crows. Now, get the final logic key so I can prepare you to meet Dog God. My dear, you amaze me. You got the keys. You actually collected all the keys.
No need to sound so surprised. What, you thought I'd have bought it by now?
Well, I did have a little bet with the Siren Tree that you wouldn't make it past the fourth quest. Now the mecha armor is complete. Encased in its steel shell, you will finally stand a chance against the Dog God.
What do you mean, stand a chance? I thought it was gonna make me unstoppable.
Well, I exaggerated, but without it you'd be toast within seconds. Come on, suit up. The final battle is upon us.